Hi there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are working on the second part of our Fallen videos, and we're going to be working on the heraldry for the knee pads for the Sergeant, the old school pre-Heresy heraldry for the Sergeant. We're going to finish off a couple other things as well. We're going to dry brush some soot on the flamer. We'll do the knee pads, we'll do the heraldry, and we're also going to do our water transfers as well. So let's get going. Okay, so when we're applying any kind of soot to our flamers, it's actually a crazy easy process. All we're going to do is take a little bit of Abaddon Black, and then a good shake there, and we're just going to dry brush it literally onto our gold flamer. Now this works for multi-melters, it works for all kinds of stuff, and I'm just going to grab, not really a dry brush, but kind of a wet brush. You can dry brush it as well, and obviously all the soot and everything is going to be around the front, so I'm just going to start with the front, and literally I'm painting it black. And then I'm just going to go about just up to where the vents are on this. So starting a little heavier at the front and just easing up as I go towards the back. Leaving the top just so we can see the visual distinction there. And then again, go heavy at the front and just kind of let it fade out a little bit as it works its way to the back. And that's it. Super, super simple. The next step is anything we're going to apply heraldry to, for example, the knee pads and the shoulder pad of the Sergeant here, we're going to base in Screaming Skull. Now, normally you could do this in, say, a white, but because these guys are kind of staying away from the white side, they're not that pure, we're going to do a Screaming Skull instead. So, with the Sergeant, I'm just going to take my Screaming Skull, and I'm just going to layer off on the inside, being very careful of the trim. And then I'll apply it to all of our knee pads for our Fallen here. So just going in and just getting the base for the knee pads. Okay, we've got all the knee pads done up in bone, and we've got the shoulder pad, the pauldron for the Sergeant all finished up as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start working on the knee pads first. So our Sergeant, if we go back to our previous reference material, our Sergeant is going to be from our 5th company. So that's just going to be super simple. It's going to be a line down the pad, a line across the pad. Okay, and I'm just going to fill in now the bottom left with black and the top right with black. Our next knee pad that we're going to work on here now is going to be our Mark IV, and he is going to be from the 6th. Now I could do the regular 6th where the right side is black, but I'm just going to go halfway up the line here, and I'm going to actually go in red because it's there's not a lot of color on this guy. He doesn't have a lot of embellishment, so I'll do the 6th in red. Next one will be our bolter friend here, and he is going to be from the 9th, so that's just going to be a lateral red line, like right across. Just tidy that up. So he'll be from the 9th. The last knee pad we're going to work on is our sword gentleman here, and you're going to see that basically I'm going to do very similar to what I did before. I'm just going to bisect the bone knee pad with white. Now our 4th company knee pad here is going to be fairly easy to do, so I'm going to do a checkerboard or checker pattern here on the knee pad. So it might be tough to see on the camera, but I've got it bisected with bone at the bottom and white at the top. So I'm just going to draw a line, bisecting the whole pad here with my micron pen. Okay, and then I'll draw another line bisecting the white. right? So I have basically a half and 2/4, and then I'll draw a line sideways or vertically here on the white, and then I'll bisect this again, so half and half distance wise. Now I can paint it with black, or I can just color them in with my pen. So I'm going to color in the alternating checks on the checkerboard pattern here. So after a little bit of tidying up, just going back and forth with the colors, we can see now that we've got our 5th company done on our sergeant, and we can see that we have our 4th company knee pad done for our sortie dude here. So the next 2 are going to be our 2 other guys, our guy from the 9th company and our Mark IV from the 6th company. And all I'm going to do for these guys is just use my Micron pen here again, just to kind of define the 2 colors in between. So I'm just going to run a line where the 2 colors meet, just to give a little bit of definition that you can see from, more than 2 inches away, which is great. So super easy for this guy here. And then for our bolter buddy here from 9th, I'm just going to outline the red just to tidy it up a bit, and just black line around that color. Alright, we can see that all our friends that have knee pads, except for our old Corvus back here, all our friends that have knee pads are all set up in their different colors. We've blacklined a little bit, touched up with a little bit of extra color, and it looks pretty sharp. And again, we're sticking to the old Pre-Heresy, early Dark Angels kind of layout. So looks really good, and again, brightens up the black by doing that trick of not having a lot of black on your black armored guys. Okay, so then now the next piece here is going to be our big sergeant here. So he's got this big pauldron on the side, and we're going to echo what we saw in that Space Marine box from forever ago, and we're going to do that by just kind of doing a lot of bisection here. Now, what's nice about this is it gives a nice, easy approach to doing a very complex pattern. So the first thing we're going to do is cut this pauldron in half. I can always go in and touch up with paint if I need to later, but we'll cut the pauldron in half. And then we're going to take it and cut it into quarters. Okay, and there we go. Once we've got that quartering done, we're going to do white scar on the bottom right and top left of the pauldron. Once the white quartering is done, we're going to go in with our aerial yellow, and we're going to do the top right corner of the pauldron. And then finally, we'll do Abaddon black on the bottom left of the pauldron. Okay, I've gone in there and just tidied up with my Micron pen. So now I've got my 4 quarters here. The yellow, of course, representing that kind of gold, the kind of gold look without the gold metallic. So you'll have yellow typically. If you want silver for heraldry, you can use white in addition. And in fact, I use white for my Gray Knights just because it's got a very similar visual appeal. So now what we're going to do is we're going to now tackle our 3 of our 4 quarters. We'll leave the black one black just to have it be kind of the fallen, represent the fallen. In the top left corner, his allegiance to the 5th company, or is respecting his origins to the 5th company. I'm just going to do a V, and then to give it a little bit of a serif above and below. So maintaining his allegiance to the 5th company. And then down on the gold, I'm going to do a sword. Now, hopefully this works on camera. So to do my sword here, I'm going to draw a line And that line is going to be about 2/3 of the way down. Sorry, yeah, 1/3 of the way down, all the way down the pauldron. I say all the way, it's like not very far at all. Okay, then I'll do a cross across the top. Okay, I'll do little serifs on the edge across the top. Then I'll cross the T very gently down at the bottom. Okay, now I'll draw the triangle in from those lines, and then I'll carry that to the middle of the sword as well. Kind of looks like the old Starship Voyager there. Now at the top, I'm going to do the handle. So I'll just do a series of lines, maybe 3 or 4, to represent the handle of the sword. Now I can tidy this up a little bit, obviously. I can go in and redo with yellow and all that, and I think I might just touch that up, but it doesn't look too bad as is. And then down here, the final piece, I'm going to do the checkerboard. So like we did before, I'm going to bisect the white like this. Okay, and then I'll cut that in half. Okay, and then I'll cut each of these halves in half. Okay, perfect. Now to give this shoulder pad just a shade more color and personality, I'll be taking my Mephiston red and alternately filling in these squares. And you can see now that that completes our shoulder pad and gives him lots and lots of personality, lots of loyalist type colors to it. However, you still got that dark black armor and the kind of traitorous question mark cowl over the face. So really, really liking it. Turned out really, really well. All right, next up we'll move on to our water transfers and we'll be done. All right, so next up here, we're going to put our water transfers on, and I've cut up our transfers. A little tricky to see on the camera, maybe if it's too white, but I've cut up the transfers here, and I've got my Dark Angels icon here on my transfer, and I'm going to put it on one of the pauldrons that, or all of my pauldrons, I guess, that don't have any of the decorative elements to them. So I just tossed it in the water, and we'll let it sit there for a good 30 seconds. Okay, so 30 seconds has passed, and now the decal has loosened off of the transfer paper here. So I'm just going to grab a brush, and I'm just going to brush it off of the paper and onto my pauldron here. Now I can use a brush with just a shade of water here now. It's like damp but not wet. And I can just brush out all the edges. Get all the air out of the transfer. And I'll work my way around on the squad markings as well. Okay, so we got the transfers all on. There's a big problem, however, in the fact that these transfers all tend to bubble, and it doesn't matter what transfer you're using, it all ends up bubbling and blistering and all that. So what I've got now is I've taken a little bit of just regular plain old floor wax, and what I'm going to do is just soak that up with my detail brush, and I'm just going to paint that on, and that will actually paint down or glue down or tack down our transfers. So all I'm doing here is I'm painting from the center of the transfer out, but I'm using floor wax. Now, it's going to leave quite the sheen on our models. However, I'm going to go in with a matte coat after anyway. So it should dry fairly quickly. Just make sure you're always working from the center out. With the heraldry done, and the squad markings done, and the decals done, our Fallen are now complete. So I'm really looking forward to seeing these guys on the table. As always, lots and lots of color. Even though we had black armor, we chose to kind of mitigate that as much as humanly possible. The only thing left now is to throw some purity seal on these guys before I take them out to the field there. And I want to make sure that all those decals have got like that second coat of sealant on them between the floor wax and the purity seal. So really looking good. Really happy I kind of, decided to take on the challenge of black armor. I'm not a big fan of black armor in general, but these guys turned out quite well. So, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, as it really helps get the video out there. You have no idea how much liking actually helps, so that'd be fantastic. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. It's going to be doing lots and lots more of these painting videos. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope it was of value to you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.